Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. We are here to go over my top 5 rogue recommendations for you guys to try out in the April 2023 format. I've gone over a lot of the metadata for the Power Absorb tournaments, and I've come to 5 decks that I think are really strong, kind of being slept on, and I'm going to explain in this video why they're worth you checking it out. Stay tuned for that, but first, we have a word from today's video's sponsor. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Now, Dragon Ballers, I'm sure you've seen tons of ads for VPNs, but let me tell you why this is so important as a card game player. This life hack is so OP, it actually just needs a nerf. So just by having ExpressVPN and changing your region, you can actually find cheaper flight deals, which for those of us that like to travel to the IRL regionals for Dragon Ball, it's so important. Look at these savings. The other life hack you guys probably already knew about was that you can region unlock things like Netflix to watch things that are not available in your region, but you might not have known that you can actually get Netflix for cheaper by switching your region on your VPN. There is, of course, also the safety component, which is probably the most responsible reason to get a VPN. Me personally, when I am working on video ideas or articles or even my comic book, I like to go to coffee shops to get work done, but your data is at risk of being hacked on public Wi-Fi networks, and what ExpressVPN does is it masks your IP address to make it that much harder for hackers to actually get your data. Those are all the reasons that I love ExpressVPN. If you guys want to get it and get 3 months free, use my link down in the description. With that being said, let's get back into the video. Alrighty, let's get back into the video. We will start with our first rogue deck of the format. We have Yellow Majin Vegeta right out of the set 20 starter deck. This deck actually managed to top several of the events from last weekend, which further just reinforces my belief in this deck. I'm a really strong Majin Vegeta believer. I do have a deck profile here on the channel if you guys want to check it out, as well as some gameplay versus SS4 Gogeta, so a pretty competitive matchup. And why do I believe in Majin Vegeta? Well, it might not be the best yellow deck because I think currently Golden Frieza owns that spot and Trunks Vegeta might be fighting for the second best yellow deck. But I think there's a strong possibility this is the third best yellow deck in the format, which doesn't sound all that great, but I mean, that's why it's on a rogue level. But even with all that said, I think it's still very, very good. Majin Vegeta is a very aggressive yellow deck, which Trunks Vegeta certainly is not. Golden Frieza is, like, in my opinion, the epitome of mid-range, where it can't hit hard super fast, but it can hit hard when it's ready to go for game. Majin Vegeta, in my opinion, very, very much on the aggro side of mid-range, but still has all the great yellow tools that yellow decks just naturally have. What I really like to compare this to is actually the Kid Goku reboot deck out of the, I think it was set 18 or set 17 starter deck. That was the first, like, pretty solid aggressive yellow deck we had seen in quite some time, but that deck has a lot of flaws, namely relying on certain cards stick around on the board. And it's several of them. It's Yamcha, it's Bulma Unison, and if those cards leave the board, the deck kind of falls apart. Majin Vegeta has a somewhat similar issue in that it's overly reliant on seeing SS2 Son Goku destined battle, but it's searchable enough. And a great recommendation that was made to me that I didn't even think about, so shout out to you guys for recommending this, is playing the Forest Fire Field card. It's literally Planet Vegeta, but it dies at the end of the turn, and that's a really relevant thing for the Goku universe at stake we'll talk about in a second. But yes, while Majin Vegeta is over reliant on seeing Goku destined battle, it is plenty searchable. And once you have it on board, your leader literally just draws 2 cards per turn. Like, it's really strong in that regard. So I don't even think that's too much of a consistency issue because of how searchable Goku is. Now let's go back to Goku Universe at Stake. This card is an insane boss monster that it just came out for generic yellow in set 20, but it's so good in Majin Vegeta because this card's best use case is when you actually have a Z leader, because you can also play when you have a Z battle card on board, but those are far less reliable. Even the ones with barrier can still be removed from the board. So the fact that Majin Vegeta has a free Z leader, which is 20k by the way, absolutely insane, makes this card really solid. And even though you're using Forest Fire, you're gonna be able to get that card out of your battle area via its own effect, and then you can use Goku to its full potential. No, you won't get a draw when you play Goku Universe at Stake, but you will get to go for the double swing, which is way more value than just the single draw. Going back to Majin Vegeta's Z leader, I mean, Champa and Isekai are banned, so this leader having an insane double strike built in that gets you down to your last life, so you have every single card to actually try to kill your opponent with, which in random clutch scenarios finds you your SCR, which is just incredible. So yeah, I like this deck a lot. Check out my profile if you want to try it out for yourself. Big recommendation here. Next up, we have SelfControl Android 21. So this is a deck that I'm actually low-key afraid of. It's kind of degenerate in what it does. So basically, the whole gimmick of this deck revolves around Android 21 trading places, a new tournament pack card that came out for the deck. It's a 1-drop with barrier, auto limit 1, place one of your energy in the owner's drop, and then return one of your multicolor energies to the owner's hand. When this card is using a combo, add 1 card from your hand to your energy in rest mode, and also says auto at the end of the turn. place up to one of your energy in the owner's drop. So through this card, you're able to manipulate what goes in and out of your energy, and then the leader triggers to draw when one of your energy is sacked, and it also replaces the energy. So you have that constant cycle of advantage going there. But the really cool thing about this deck, or even in my opinion scary thing, is that you can constantly bring Android 18 Bionic Blitz back to your energy, and then use a multitude of different card effects to bring it back to your hand. We saw this deck get second place at a recent European regional, and then it managed to top again one of the regionals this past weekend that I covered on the channel just a few days ago. So this deck, I think, is getting a bit more serious. I think it's very good. I'm going to call it rogue level for now. Even though I say I'm a little bit afraid of it, I'm not too worried about it like overtaking the meta or anything, because it is very reliant on seeing Android 21 trading places. So I'm not going to go ahead and say this is like broken crazy yet, because if it doesn't see certain cards early, the deck can certainly kind of get stalled and be a little bit too slow. But I think it's a pretty cool gimmick for anyone who's been really into the Expert Deck 21 that has just been waiting for really good support. This is your time to play this deck. This deck is actually super solid right now. Next up, we have Red Android 13. So this deck has put up consistent results in North America. We had this deck topping both North American events so far for the Set 20 format, and I think it's a really good red deck. Yes, it's overshadowed by Sin and Gogeta, but what this deck's able to do is actually a little bit scary. So on turn 3, which is right before the big Gogeta turn, and it's kind of on par with Sin Shenron's big turn 3, you're able to play Total Annihilator here for 1 energy, typically, sometimes 2 energy, depending on your setup. But when you play this card, it's basically, you got a convoluted ruling that I'll explain here. So let me start by reading the card. Firstly, it's a double striker. Permanent, if an Android 13 is under this card gains dual attack and isn't affected by the skills of red Saiyan cards with 20k power or less in any of your opponent's areas. The Saiyan thing is a cool upside against specifically the Gogeta matchup, but other than that, it gains dual attack, but only conditionally. So what you do here is you're always going to have an Android 13 under this. That's the one you use to unit absorb into it. You're going to swing with Total Annihilator. You're going to use its auto and its card attacks. Use to 1 card from under this card in a combo with its skills negated for the turn, and then choose one of your opponent's battle cards or unisons, and it gets minus 25k for the turn. So you're going to use the Android 13 that is under this in that combo. And then this card is going to be a 30k double strike, and the dual attack is technically going to be wiped away, but dual attack, the auto of it already triggered, so this is going to restand for another swing. And then what you can do is put Android 13 Villainous Threat under the Total Annihilator, and that's going to give it a new instance of dual attack, and it's basically going to be a triple attacking 30k double striker on turn 3. That is a really powerful threat. Again, slightly overshadowed by some other red decks, but I do think this is a really strong one for any of you guys out there that really like the Android 13 deck. I do have Alexander's deck list here on the channel for anyone who wants to check it out. I strongly recommend it. I personally think it's a lot of fun. I tested this deck a lot when it was first revealed in Set 19. I liked it. I definitely recommend it. Alright, next up, we do have Yellow Kid Goku Reboot. So I just got done talking about how Majin Vegeta, in my opinion, is a more upgraded version of this deck, but that doesn't change the fact this is still one of my favorite decks of all time, and it actually got some pretty cool indirect support in Set 20. So what you can do now is you can play Hercule Rallying Hope, which is a very simple card. 1 drop, 1Z energy, barrier, activate main, switch card to rest mode, choose any number of your battle cards, and switch them to rest mode. Don't even read the rest of the card, it's not important. Basically, what this allows you to do is get full value of Yamcha Dastardly Bandit, which says you have to choose a Goku in your battle area that has not yet attacked, that is in rest mode, and then restand it and then get an additional draw. Before a card like Hercule was out, you had to basically attack with a Goku twice and then evolve it into a new card that would be in rest mode, and then swing with your leader, tap Yamcha, then you can resolve Yamcha's full effect. But you run into a big problem there if you get floodgated, like in the mirror match if you get Robotic Riposte, or if against any deck really, if they play Oceanus, you don't want to swing with your leader at that point, you run into a big problem against floodgates. What Hercule allows you to do is basically play the Hercule, preemptively tap the Goku, and then you can swing with your leader, tap Yamcha, get that full value and that extra draw. So while Hercule sits on the board with barrier, you're gonna be able to get those draws turn after turn after turn, and tap Gokus that you don't want to swing with yet, or Gokus you don't want to evolve on top of. It's a really cool interaction with this deck from a pretty indirect piece of support, but it is one that makes the deck a little bit worth revisiting. This deck's also consistently topped this past weekend, I believe 2 or 3 of the events. So yeah, worth taking a look for sure. And then finally we have Rainbow Vegeta. This is a deck that I remember telling you guys not to sleep on. Not that it's going to be overwhelming in the meta or anything, but it is still a really strong deck, and this is a great example of what Bandai has done with legacy support. The Z leader and Z battle card for this deck are absolutely phenomenal. The main drawing points of this deck for me are two things. One, you search out your SCR super easily. Like, you should have this card like 90% of your games, and tapping 4 of your opponent's cards, probably their energy, is really hard for your opponent to come back from. To be honest with you, they'll probably just lose on the spot most times you do that, because we don't have a Crimson in the format right now. We don't have a blue deck that's like untapping a bunch of energy mid combat. So when you tap someone out, a lot of the times they're tapped out. Some blue decks can get around this, but it's not as easy as it was for Crimson to do, right? So that alone is a really strong play. The other thing too is this deck's gotten a lot of indirect support from set 20 because there are so many yellow Goku and Vegeta cards to now take a look at and play with this leader. The thing about Vegito is a lot of its best defensive cards come in the form of yellow. One big one is going to be Flying Nimbus. Another card you look at is Giant Ball. Just generic yellow cards that you want yellow energy to play. And now that you have cards like Vegeta Buying Time and other Gokus and Vegetas to look at, there's a lot of stuff to explore with this leader in this current format. But that's what I got for you in today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking. What rogue decks are you guys playing? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.